Hello, dear friends. During this age of Adam, mankind has become the ruler of the earth. We have proliferated as a species, and we have gained utter dominion over the earth. And so it might be said that this entire age of life on the earth has been the age of man. And our tendency has been to look at ourselves because of this um, domination of the planetary life that we've achieved. Our tendency has been to look at ourselves as not perfect, but highly evolved and uh, good, highly evolved and uh, powerful, and but the truth of our situation is a little bit different. And this is what one thing that Jesus was trying to show us. We, as a race of beings, have consciousness. We have responded in our first man called Adam. We have responded to the awakening of consciousness. So we do have this, but the state of consciousness that we have been moving in is not what we think. We tend to think that it's already a highly evolved state, that it's um, enlightened, and it's not. The fact is that the state of consciousness that we've been in corresponds to a seed state, meaning that when you look at a plant, which is an evolutionary life form, a plant begins its um, life cycle as a seed. And a seed is very tiny. It's like a little pebble that you hold in your hand or smaller. And it is nothing compared to the glory of the plant. In other words, the seed is where that life begins, where the plant's life is completely coded inside the seed. Its DNA, its genetic form, everything about it is encoded in that seed. It's really an amazing aspect of our creation that you could hold two seeds in your hand and they would produce an entirely different kind of plant. Um, and every time the same seed would produce the same plant. But what we have to understand about mankind is that our state of consciousness that we have awoken to, and it's good that we did awake, we did that much right. This state of consciousness that we have awoken to is but a seed state. And as such, this entire age of human endeavor needs to be reframed. We need to look at it in a different light. We need to turn away from the boasting, arrogant attitudes of some of our thinkers and realize that mankind has been groping in the dark. In fact, that was one of the things that Jesus pointed out was that we have been blind, all of us, blind from birth, and that has to do with our state of consciousness. And that is also why there has been so much suffering on the earth. It's not that uh, we haven't been suffering because of bestiality. We haven't been suffering because we are a bestial species that wants to destroy other members of our species. No, we've been suffering because of our state of consciousness being a lowly seed state, not yet enlightened and not yet fulfilled in its evolutionary thrust. And part of our problem in this state is ignorance. It's the tendency of man to suffer from a less than enlightened uh, understanding of life, to be carried away with superstition and fear. Um, Fear being a very powerful and dominant emotion for us in this state of consciousness. To be carried away with superstition, to be ignorant when it comes to understanding life and the truth about life. And of course, our scientists, our scientific community has helped us immensely in this regard. It has brought mankind into much greater light. Um, but it's amazing that even after 6,000 years, we haven't really come into the kind of light that you would think we would. There are a couple of reasons for this. I have always said that the scientific community is working on our behalf and is helping us, but they've been a little too cautious about their approach to bringing us into greater light. They, to their credit, they have been able to weed out many of the superstitious inclinations and to debunk them and to focus on the real. And that's to their credit. But where they have fallen short is that they've been overly cautious about the real. They've been so careful to not go into the realms of the non-real, or what they would call the non-physical or non-materialistic realm, that they have fallen short, and um, they have shown us many truths about natural science, about the natural world, the world that we can touch and feel and see and smell and taste. But they have not come all the way into the truth in a way that can help us come out of our ignorance. And the other factor that has kept us stuck is simply people not wanting to even believe what science has shown us. People clinging to ideas that are strictly um, superstitious, and and this has to do with our state of consciousness. the tenacious quality that with which we cling to superstition has to do with our fears and our ignorance. And this is something that the New Age is going to be very different about in regards to. The New Age is not going to be, there's not going to be the kind of human ignorance that there is now. The New Age is going to be an age of truth. And this is what Jesus came to show us. Not the fulfillment of religion, but in essence, the complete reliance on truth. And there won't be any need for religion once we have that. But in this age, we have had many ideas, we have held to many beliefs, and sometimes these beliefs change and vary, but they're all of the same quality, and that is that they're all clearly inspired by ignorance and fear and superstition. That has been a characteristic of our age. And this tendency on man's behalf has made life very difficult for us. We have suffered through this age for the most part, and we have suffered from aspects of life that we didn't need to suffer from, but because of our ignorance, we found ourselves not able to do any better than we have done. We could have done away with such things as murder and violence a long time ago. We could have done away with disease and poverty a long time ago. But because our state of consciousness has been basically stuck for these past 6,000 years, and it has been a state of consciousness that has been consistently given over to ignorance, we are still being plagued by these very dark and suffering aspects of life. And this has been a great, poignant quality about human life that we've all felt, that why does mankind treat one another like we do? Why do we cause suffering? Why do we cause pain to one another and to other creatures on the earth? Why is it that we have persisted in this kind of mentality? And the answer is that we have not yet evolved out of that seed state of consciousness. We're stuck. And as long as we're stuck, we're going to be moving in ignorance. And so what we see is that the real cure to mankind's existential dilemma is the evolution of consciousness. It's not education. It's not any kind of temporary improvements that we can make. We must evolve in consciousness if we have any hope of human life becoming more fulfilling and enlightened, and it's everything that we're capable of, everything that we were created to be. But we have to move forward in this way. We have to come out of the dark ages. I know that our history says that we did come out of the dark ages, that they call the dark ages, but we're still in the dark ages. We're still blind. We're still the blind leading the blind. And this will not be the case in the new age. So we have this to look forward to, is that human beings were not created to be this debased in our behaviors. We have really sold ourselves short for a long time. And you can't get rid of ignorance by going to school, because ignorance has to do with knowing the truth. And the truth is not about the knowing of facts and figures, or it's not even about natural science, although there is truth in natural science to be found. But unless you make the connection between human life and natural science, you can't find the truth in that direction. The truth is actually a matter of consciousness. It's a spiritual matter. It's not a head matter. It's not a matter of learning this or that. It's spiritual. And that is because mankind was created as a spiritual being. And so what we have successfully done throughout this age is to stifle that spiritual impulse from blossoming, to keep it from blossoming, and to keep ourselves in a materialistic frame of mind, except for our ignorant, superstitious religious beliefs, which is a strange mix when you think about it. On the one hand, we have people clinging inordinately to the natural world, to what we can perceive with our senses, and not wanting to go any further. But on the other hand, we still have multitudes of people clinging to superstitious beliefs. And so this is where we're at right now, my friends. And it's important that we understand that we're not fully evolved yet. This has been actually a rather difficult hurdle for us to get over. It's been a lie of our culture that very few people have been able to see through. And we need to admit our blindness. We need to admit our behaviors that are so far short of what we were created to be. We need to distance ourselves from those, and we need to open ourselves up to the truth. And the truth of who we are, the truth of who God is, the truth of what life is. Life is all around us. It's in the earthly plane. The earthly plane is teeming with life. But unless we can come into the truth, we don't have an understanding of what life really is. And we don't know ourselves, and we don't know God. And so, even though Jesus was um, taken as a religious icon and by superstitious men, even though Jesus was understood to be religious and to be like us in that sense, but only more so, um, this isn't true about him. And this is a good starting place for us because Jesus has been one of the few, very few um, aspects of our entire age, of our entire human experience that has broke the mold, that has caused us to stop and say, what was that all about? Who is this guy, and what was motivating him? There haven't been very many, or there haven't been very many instances that have caused us to do this. So this is a really good starting place. If we can figure out, if we can go within ourselves and ask ourselves, what was it about Jesus that um, made him so different? That made him uh, immune to suffering and all of the aspects of our lives that are so debasing. What was it about Jesus? So, what we see is that even though he has become the subject of all of these religious ideologies, Jesus himself was not moving in that. He had no uh, inclination whatsoever to to have ignorant, superstitious beliefs. He was a complete pragmatist, a complete um, realist, and that pragmatism, wherein the scientific community has always been cautious about it, Jesus wasn't cautious. He allowed his pragmatism to extend to the spiritual aspects of human life, to extend to consciousness. And this was a very bold aspect to Jesus because human consciousness and human spirituality is very different than um, the rest of what makes us tick. It has nothing to do with our five physical senses. It has nothing to do with uh, the rest of the life forms on the earthly plane. It's strictly a human gift that we have consciousness and a spiritual inclination. And we have to come up with a different way of interpreting this, of relating to it. And this is something that Jesus did. And he was very bold, and he understood. He understood that God was not some religious, superstitious being or figure in our ideas. There is a God, but that God is grounded totally in realism, totally in non-superstitious life. And yet, the way to approach God and to relate to God is something that is totally foreign to us at this point. Totally. You won't find it in any religion that we have today. Those approaches to God that have been retained throughout our religious history are still grounded in superstition and ignorance. You won't find anybody that showed the truth like Jesus did, that was moving in the truth about God and about how to relate to God. So this is what we need to do. We need to get a new framework for understanding truth. Truth is not what we've thought up until now. We need a whole new, like a sixth sense, to be able to perceive it. We need to open ourselves to the fact that we have been missing, and that it's possible, it's just possible, that the truth is there, but we've been missing it because of our ignorance and our approach, and that we can learn a new way, that we can learn how to perceive God, how to relate to God, and based on truth. And this is what Jesus was here to show us. And it's amazing to me that it didn't work, that people just took who he was and ran with it in this totally other direction of superstition and ignorance. Okay, so truth is the key, but truth is much bigger than we thought. Truth is not just natural science. Truth, it goes into the entire realm of consciousness and spirituality. There is a truth to those realms about human life that we have been too timid to explore. And this is the key. This is the key for us to move forward and to evolve and to bring about the new age and to become enlightened creatures, the enlightened creatures that we were created to be. We have to understand that we've been living in the dark ages, and that in order for us to come into greater light, we need a whole new framework of relating and understanding. And it's not beyond us. We can do this, but up until now, we haven't been open to doing this. We've been too stuck, and we've been too closed in our ignorance and clinging to that ignorance. But this is something we can do. We can learn a new framework. And that's why Jesus is such a good place for us to start. Looking at his life, looking at his teaching, studying his teaching, we can see that this was one of us who had come out of the dark ages and who had moved into something that we're all capable of moving into, and moved out of ignorance, superstition, and fear. And so, my friends, this is really the task before us. Uh, there is a new age coming for mankind, but we have to um, do the work to bring it to pass. We have to be the pioneers that bring it to pass. We have to go further than the scientific community has gone and understand that there is a spiritual aspect of life and consciousness and human consciousness that is just as scientific as the natural world, and it's full of truth. So this is where we're heading, and this is what we can do, and hopefully uh, we will make greater and greater strides.